Hi, welcome back to Love Alex. We've been talking about organizing and creating order, structure, routine to make life easier for you, grounded in what your family values and wants to prioritize and make a goal so that you can more fully enjoy life and one another. So, today we're talking about something related to the structuring of routines and creating physical order in your physical space. And that is the idea of consistency. And this is a word that is thrown out regularly by teachers, by just parenting articles. And it's the idea that, you build routines by being consistent. You teach a skill by being consistent. But the problem is what the word consistent means can mean different things to different people. Being a recovering perfectionist myself, I often used to interpret, well, I did. When I heard consistent, I thought that meant 100 out of 100. So if you were being consistent in or if I was being consistent with my classroom routines, it meant that every day, all day long, I was being consistent, which meant every day, all day long, every time, every kid, I was implementing that. If even one child spoke out of turn, like they, because one of my rules is raise your hand for permission to speak, and a common classroom tool. If even one time a child spoke to me and I forgot to show them, to remind them to raise their hand first, I was not being consistent and that child would not get that. Well, that's ridiculous. The reality is that as human beings, we just don't seem to be capable of 100 times out of 100 times getting something most of the time. It's an unreasonable expectation and it's unnecessary because to be consistent just means more often than not. And embracing that reality that, oh, as long as I'm doing this most of the time, they get it. And this idea that, oh, if you let it go even one time, it's going to ruin. Well, even if that were true, it doesn't impact the reality that I can't do it 100% of the time. And I think that as we work to create routines and to establish a physical environment that feels good to us and our families, it's important to keep that at the forefront. That yes, we're creating new structures, but every day looks a little different. And yes, if you have a routine where every day at about 4:30 your children are doing homework, but then, on Friday they ask to go to a friend's house and it looks a little bit different, so then you end up moving that to Saturday. Those sorts of compromises and shifts and changes, that's just part of life. It's like going to the gym, you work out maybe 4 days a week, but maybe once a month or as 5 times a year, whatever, or more, depending on who you are, you don't, because you don't feel like it. You want to break. You're the longest line at Starbucks. I don't know. It's routine. When we talk about things being consistent, this idea that our house is always going to be Pinterest ready, that our routines are flawless and work like this robotic machine, that's just unnecessary. And I find that when we do start working toward that, it's typically not because of our own values, our own goals. It's because we're starting to get sucked into that idea that we're bad people or we're bad parents or we're missing something or failing if we're not keeping up. And that, I think, is the most important place to start when you're looking to order your life is why. What are your values? What are your priorities? That's why you're putting this in place. And for most of us don't feel like, I want my house to be so spotless that you could eat off the floor at all times because I'm not even sure what your reason would be for that. I don't know. Because you enjoy eating off the floor. So it's really important to know why we want what we want. Is it because we feel like we have to? Why do we feel like we have to? Is it because we feel guilty if there are dishes in the sink? Why? Is it because somebody else gives us a hard time? So typically, when we figure out why we're doing what we're doing, we can go from there. So let me give you an example. So I was talking to a parent recently who has worked hard to establish routines in her home. And when you look at it from the outside, it looks like it functions really well. But she feels still crazy. And you know that feeling of, oh, it's just, there's so many things out of place. And we talked about, why is it that you feel that way? Oh, I don't know. I look at other people and it seems like they just have it all together. Well, what does that mean that they have it all together? Well, their kids come home and they have a snack and they have their homework, and then you walk into their house and there aren't dishes in the sink. And so I stopped her I didn't stop her, but she described it. And then I said, so you just described your house. I got here, your child, like, I know that your child has a homework routine and I can see her working right now. And there are no dishes in your sink. I know, but when you're not here, it's this way. And I said, well, what do you think it's like for that other parent you're describing? You really think that her dishes are out of the sink at all times? You think they don't eat, they don't cook, they don't... And I think, we were kind of laughing at the end. And we're so surrounded by these images, which are great, they're inspiring. I love Pinterest. You get on there and everything looks so nice, but that isn't to look at a static image and expect that to be a reflection of a dynamic living experience with a family is laughable. And it's not the goal. It's not the goal. And when we're thinking about being consistent, it's true that if we aren't committing to a routine more often than not, it's not going to follow through. And that's okay if you don't care about that routine. But if it is a routine you want to set up, it's going to be most successful if more often than not you are teaching that behavior, enforcing that behavior, encouraging that behavior, engaging in that behavior, right? More often than not. And then once in a while things will be things and you let them be things. So, but I think what I just want to keep encouraging you to do is to think about what you really care about. You are in control. So that beautiful mom who felt crazy because she felt like she was failing because she happened to take a static picture in her mind of another person's home who happened to look the way she wanted her home to look at that moment. And I think we need to start looking at the mess through a different lens. Like, that's what it looks like to live. The sink gets full because we eat and we use dishes, and then we clean it up as a family. And that's what we care about. So let's look for beauty in more places than just Pinterest and our neighbor's house when they've been planning a visit with us and their kids are prepared. Just appreciate the order and the routine that you've built, even as you work to create new ones that serve your family well. But remember, consistent doesn't mean 100%. It's not that static image we're going for. Have fun. I'll see you next time.